So we'll be discussing then in today's and the following two classes of how to do that while you're writing, right? And within this style, we are mostly going to discuss, as I mentioned already, uh, that we are mostly going to be concerned with the fourth aspect. Look at this. You have elements of style on the screen. And within this, the major parts that would be of concern for us is clarity, accuracy, brevity, sentence length, paragraphs, reader centricity. Right? All of these are part of style, right? But within this, what is to be learned or what we need to practice in order to write well would be the fourth point that you see, sentence length. Like sentence length, the way you control it, the way you construct it, will add to every other feature that you see under elements of style, right? So sentence length, if managed properly, will ensure clarity to your writing. It will ensure accuracy to what you've written. It will ensure brevity. What is brevity? Any idea what is brevity? Brevity is a very important factor in all sorts of professional writing. It is not as big a factor in, say, creative writing, but every other forms of writing, whether technical writing or professional writing, brevity is very important. What is that?
Remember keeping brief.
Yes, right. So this is also directly linked to the length aspect, right? So brevity means to keep things short and precise, right? Precision is what we mean by brevity. You don't have to write too much. Whenever you're required to, write only as much as required, right? Do not exceed beyond the limits or do not even come down the limits. You will see this factor is generally applied to professional writing, but when particularly you write things like emails or letters and all that, this gains a little more importance than its usual deed, right? Like say a formal email that you write to your colleague or someone at the workplace, ideally should not exceed 60 to 80 words, right? This time and space is a very, very important. They're fortune makers when it comes to workplaces. So this factor then in professional writing particularly becomes very, very important. All that is controlled but by the length of the sentences that you use. So that is the importance of the sentence length here. All right, so enough of introduction. We'll start talking about what sentence length is. Now, look at the first thing that you see there. Shorter sentences are preferred in professional writing. We were referring to brevity just a few seconds ago. And you very rightly mentioned that we're talking about writing briefly, writing the content to the required precision of the matter. Okay, so that means then if time and spaces are so much constrained in workplaces or all professional domains, then people would ideally prefer that you write it short, right? So if you have to write short, obviously, no price for guessing, your sentences also will have to be short, right? That is what the first sentence means, that shorter sentences are preferred in professional writing. Don't take things too much of a face value, right? What we mean is that write briefly as much as possible. That does not mean that you cut out important details from what you want to write because you want to write a short piece, right? That's not what it means. It means that you should maintain the length of the write-up to the required or the allowed limits. Okay, don't exceed it or don't even don't cut short too much to the level that people don't understand, right? Both of it is problematic. You write too much, people would be confused. You write too little, people will still be confused. So that's the idea. Don't think that I'll write only short sentences while I'm writing. Okay. Now, the essence of what we want to discuss under sentence length is that you have short sentences and you also have long sentences while you write, right? You cannot just keep writing short sentences because then your write-up looks very curt and it doesn't make any sense. People wouldn't um, um, the connections and the links that you need to form sometimes between what you're writing is lost when you resort to just one type of sentences, right? Just one length sentences. You will sometimes also have to write longer sentences when you want to elaborate things, when you want to add details to what you're writing. You definitely will have to write a longer sentence. So then, an ideal method of communication right? Whether in professional domain or whether in the other forms of writing, then would be to use a combination of both the short and long sentences as and when it is required, right? Um, so, uh, writing too many long sentences again problematic. Writing too many short sentences again can spoil what you want to present to others. So the best method is to use a combination. We'll quickly look at what are the areas or what are the instances when you can prefer a short sentence over a long sentence that you can do. This decision is upon you. You write if you're writing something, you can decide whether I should use a short or a long sentence based on what kind of information you want to convey to the people, right? So when do you use a sentence? You use a short sentence when you start a paragraph or you end a paragraph, right? You can use that because what do we do when you begin a paragraph? Our primary goal is to convey to the person the purpose of your writing, right? Uh, Ideally, your topic sentence, right? That is going to define the purpose of your writing. So the topic sentence and the concluding sentence in a paragraph, right? Ideally, if I refer to the different components of the paragraph, then the topic sentence and the concluding sentence of the paragraph ideally can be kept short because one is that which conveys the purpose to the reader. So it is always recommended that you keep it short so that there is no confusion to the readers as they go through it. And the last sentence, which is the concluding sentence, the task is to restate or sum up what has already been discussed in the paragraph. Even that can be kept short. So the crux of the matter, right? The main purpose and the important part of the paragraph is conveyed very clearly to the to the reader. What forms the body of the paragraph, or what we refer to as the supporting sentences in the paragraph, they can have the liberty of being a little longer, right? They can be longer because we discussed this that the purpose of the supporting sentences is to elaborate, explain, add, prove, so on and so forth. So they have the liberty, they can be allowed to be a little longer in nature, right? Now, none of this, right? You see there in block letters, not a fossilized rule, right? What does it mean? Means that these are suggestions to improve on your writing. Now, this does not mean that this is not any golden rule, right? It doesn't mean that oh, this is the only way I can achieve clarity or this is the only way I can write good piece, right? You can, at a later stage, while you become a little used to writing, you can figure out your own styles of presenting your matter. But the only thing you must keep in mind is that you should be, whatever you do with your writing, it should not compromise with the clarity of what you want to write, right? So this is the only thing that comes in here. But if you're a beginner, if you're just beginning to, write or somebody who has just begun taking up tasks like this in life, then it's a good way to have a couple of these things in mind, which is the ones that I just told you. Shorter sentences for the beginning and the end, and longer sentences for the subject matter that goes in between the paragraphs, right? So this is all that you need to keep in mind. Now, what can short sentences do? When you have to punctuate an idea, right? That is when you want someone to take a pause at something and then understand what it is, right? Then shorter sentences help you better, right? You write long, unwinding sentences, it becomes difficult. The thought or the idea gets lost in that whole loop, right? So to punctuate this idea, to give a gap, to give an interval to the reader, if that is what your plan is, then shorter sentences work better. If that is what you're planning to do with your writing, then use shorter sentences. But if you want to add more details, you want to keep the person glued to what you're writing, if you want them to construct, you want them to, read along, to build what you are writing along with you, to think about what you are writing along with you, then longer sentences help, right? Which is why now this is not something that is always recommended in the professional zone because it is just a straightforward method of communication, right? So which is why you don't. It is not recommended to use too much of long sentences in the professional domain, right? This is where that. logic comes from. Okay. Okay. So these are the functions of short sentences and long sentences. There is also one thing where you use combinations, but I have examples for that, but the problem is most of those examples are from the creative writing arena. I don't have one which has been written in the professional zone. But nevertheless, we'll take a look at what those are so that you get an idea of how this works. Look at this, combining long and short sentences. In the next, change the slide. I hope you've seen already. Uh, a short sentence followed by a longer sentence. Now, see, this is you've arranged it, right? We talked about combination, and when we do the combination, there can be a short sentence followed by a long sentence, or a long sentence followed by a short sentence. Anything is possible. But when this happens, it can generate different meanings. And what are those? We'll try and understand it through the very short extracts that we have here on the screen, right? A short sentence followed by a long sentence may be used to flip the perspective of the reader, right? What does that mean? I'm reading something, and if I want to flip the perspective of the reader, I want to change the course of writing, and I want the reader also to travel along with me and change the perspective of what they have been reading. I can use a combination of a short sentence followed by a longer sentence. How does that happen? Let's take a look at this example. I sat in the leftmost corner of the railway station, dreaming of the new journey, new place, new people, new life, the many friendships I would make. Mike said I should go home. Okay. What sense do you get from this? There are just two sentences. The first one is a long one, and the second one is a short. Okay. What do you understand from this? Okay. Do you see that there's a flip in the perspective of the reader, and how does that happen? Can anybody uh, let me know? Yeah, nobody. Are you not able to see it?
Ma'am, the shorter sentence is a dialogue, and the long sentence is a description.
No, it is all of it is a description. But what happens in the description, right? I sat in the leftmost corner of the railway station till friendships I would make. And then the short sentences, Mike said I should go home, right? So there is this person who's at the railway station thinking about what would happen to the person next as they board the train and get to the place they want. Everything, right? New life, many friendships, and then suddenly there is somebody who says, "I should, that the person should go home." So there is a flip in the perspective, right? So anybody would ideally think that the next sentence I'm going to read is something that will add to the existing idea. That is, something about going to the new place and doing something there. But here it is the opposite. What happened? Someone has come and asked this person to go home. So which means this person is not going to do anything that the person has been imagining to do. Okay. Did you understand this from what you have read here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this Mike said I should go home is a short sentence, and what it did is it has flipped the perspective of the reader. You were expecting a continuation to what was going on, but then snap. There's a sudden snap. So why? Because this person has to now go back home, and this effect is produced by this short sentence. The impact has been created of this flipping away from what you have been reading has been created by the shorter sentence, and this is one of the functions of this combination, right? You go on writing, 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 and then put in one short sentence to say that none of this is going to happen. Okay, so that is one function of this combination. Second one is of course punctuation of ideas. Look at the second example you have here. Everyone stood in queue with their luggage. Some even rushed to occupy the first spot. The train wheels screeched and halted. It halted. It halted. Okay. Do you see that everything that goes before the last one it read, right? All the things that all the three sentences that you have read, everyone stood in queue with their luggage. Some even rushed to occupy the first spot. The train wheels screeched and howled. So you see that all these three sentences are in some way connected to the last one. They are all talking about the train halting. See this? Yes, no,
Yes.
right? People standing to people trying to occupy the first spot. Okay, the train's wheels screeching, howling. All of this, in some sense, is related to the process of the train halting, right? This is called punctuating. You're giving little by little, trying to build up and tell. Without simply saying that the train halted and people got onto it, you are just building up it little by little, right? You're punctuating the ideas, you're providing the details in intervals, okay, before you sum up the last. So this is again one, and all the four sentences that you see, it is not just the last one. All the four sentences are actually, in some sense, short sentences, right? So this is also another function of the short sentences. The combination, of course, to flip the perspective of the reader, that is largely used for that purpose. And using all short sentences is used to create this, sense of punctuating ideas. That is providing giving details little by little at a time, right, at intervals. Then the next one is a long sentence followed by a short sentence. That's a different one. We had a short one followed, sorry, a long one followed by a short one. Now the other one is, okay, sorry. So another thing that the long sentence followed by a short sentence can do is excite the reader, right? Excite the reader, like you see here, no, in the first case that you saw, where Mike said I should go home. This jolts you entirely. You're like, okay, you are forced to change the direction of your thought process, and in some sense, it can also build some excitement within you. That okay, then what happened? Now this person is not going to board the train and not going to do what they want to do. So what are they going to do now, right? So it sort of also helps the um, author to create a sense of excitement in the room, right? That is another function. Then refocus the attention on the main narrative, right? The second example that we saw, it halted, right? What does it do? It brings back your attention into the main matter, that is the train has now stopped, right? We are taking only sentential examples so that it is clearer to you. I don't want you to want to take you through larger paragraphs because it can be a little confusing at this stage. So this is why we have short extracts and short sentences so that you see the point clear. Okay. So understand this, flipping the perspective of the reader, punctuating the ideas, exciting the readers, and refocusing the attention to the main purpose, right? Main narrative. These are all the um, functions, or these are all the things that you can achieve by using a combination of a long and short sentence. Okay, particularly the focus here is on the short sentence, right? All right. We are going to look at a few important sentence styles as referenced in the Oxford Essential Guides on Writing. We'll just have a quick look at what these things are and then move on. You don't have to remember these names, they don't serve you any purpose. But what you need to keep in mind is how this is done, right? How it is written and how it is constructed in a sentence. I have examples for all of them. So please pay closer attention to those examples to see how the construction happens. Okay. All right. So first one you have here is segregating style. Right now, what is a segregating style? Segregating style is one statement. Okay, that's one sentence or one statement with just one idea. You don't have anything more than that in this, right? So it is a statement with one idea, and it will be usually short and very, uncomplicated means it won't be like a complex sentence or anything, right? A very short, uncomplicated sentence. It will have a subject and a predicate, right? A simple sentence. And what does it do? It allows emphasis, and it is used to compose brief passages to stress a particular idea, right? This is called a segregating style, where you have a simple sentence. Okay, just keep in mind that it is a simple sentence, so it's going to have a subject and a predicate, and one idea that it has to convey to the reader, right? Usually, these kind of sentence styles are used to convey a message, right? It can be a message, it can be a story, it can be a narrative, it can be a sentences or these styles are used to add emphasis to what you're writing. Let's see these things through examples. Please look at them. He writes at most 750 words a day. He writes and rewrites. He polishes and repolishes. He works in solitude. He works with agony. He works with sweat. And that is the only way to work at all. Okay, what do you see there? How are the sentences written here? Are they long or short?
Yeah, short sentences.
They're all short, right? Now, how does this become a segregating style? It's a collection of short sentences. Look at them. You look. He writes at most 750 words a day. He writes and rewrites. He polishes and repolishes. He works in solitude. He works with agony. He works with sweat. And that is the only way to work it out. Right? All of them are short sentences. So it looks like a collection of short sentences that's written. And each of them conveying one part each about what? About writing. From the context we can give, they're talking about writing. So each of it conveying different things about each of the sentences conveying different things in writing, right? About writing, right? So this is what we mean, and you see because this is short in nature, every sentence will have to be read to its own meaning, right? They're contributing to the overall meaning, but every sentence by itself has one idea and it is trying to convey some meaning that adds to the total, right? So there is an element of emphasis that you see in each sentence. Okay, so all this achieved using shorter sentences used in a collection, right? This is called a segregating style. When you have a collection of short sentences used together to lay down emphasis in what you want to write, that is a segregating style. Okay, now, we'll go through the next few examples also. You also have an example where you will see a combination of this. Okay, and whenever you have a combination of a long and short, pay attention to how the shorter sentences work there. Let's have a look at the second example that you have here. The judge gave an order, and the vice consul rose and walked to the gateway where their chairs awaited them. Here stood the criminal with his gun. Notwithstanding his tied hands, he smoked a cigarette. A squad of little soldiers had been sheltering themselves under the overhanging roof, and on the appearance of the judge, the officer in charge made them form. The judge and the vice consul settled themselves in their chairs. The officer gave an order, and the squad stepped out. A couple of yards behind them walked the criminal. Then came the judge in his chair and the vice consul. Look at all the shorter sentences in the paragraph and see how they add more emphasis to what has been written. So every time you have to add a little more emphasis, add a little more perspective to what you are writing, a shorter sentence is placed in between the longer. Okay, see this, read it once again and try to understand it. Read it to yourself. Who is given the emphasis? If you have read it already, when has the shorter sentence been used and who is the emphasis been given to in that particular? Who or what is given the emphasis for? No?
Ma'am, the short sentences are talking about the criminal and the judge.
Ah, correct. Right? Mostly about the criminal. Look at that. So emphasis is more on that. So obviously, this is a crime scene. Someone's going to be executed. The primary focus then is going to be mostly on what? From the um, um, paragraph that we read here, they don't talk much about. There is no much explanation given to the other characters. but the criminal is explained a little further there, right? So to lay that emphasis, you have shorter sentences in order to bring the attention of the reader to that part, telling you that this is the main part you are going to do. Okay. So yes, correctly identified that two short sentences that you see there mostly about the criminal, right? Okay. Now, the last one you have here. Before election day, he predicted he would win if rain didn't keep the mud farmers away from the polls. It rained. Read again and tell me which one is the shortest sentence in this and what does it do.
Ma'am,
We
the
already looked at
shortest,
the.
ma'am,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yes. Go ahead.
yeah, ma'am, the shortest sentence in the third paragraph, third sentence is it
Uh-huh.
rained, and it is used to lay emphasis that the
Ah.
candidate Hugh Long might have
Hmm.
lost the election.
Correct. Correct. Right? So that is the task of the shorter sentence. It range. So it lays emphasis on that fact and it also flips the uh, reader's perspective. Right? That is one of the function of the short sentences. So you're expecting something more to be added to the current scenario, but suddenly a short sentence is introduced to tell you that no, probably that's not what happened. This guy has lost because it says it rained. Okay. Right.
Okay, ma'am.
So this is how that's how you can use the length of sentence. You can vary them in order to build convey meanings, right? Um, to convey meanings to the reader properly and add flavor to what you're writing. Right. So this is on the segregating style. Now we're going to look at something called the freight train style. Right. So freight train style. What does it mean? What is a freight train? Freight train. We
Ma'am,
have
a
another
train
name
that is
for that.
used to carry goods.
Correct. Right. It's commonly known as a goods train in our country. So freight train is that. What is the specialty of a freight train? How
Ma'am,
is
it
it?
can.
It is longer than your usual passenger train, right? Have you seen? Notice it is quite huge,
Yes,
very
ma'am.
long, right? They are not shorter. When they have too many freight uh, chains attached to them. Now that is exactly the meaning of this sentence. Long sentence, right? This is a long sentence, but how long, how you construct this long sentence has some details to it. How do you do it? So it couples short, independent clauses to make longer sequential statements, right? Very much like a freight train. You have smaller parts which are chained together to form the long train. Similarly, here you have small independent clauses, right? They are joined together in order to make a long sequence. And what's the purpose? When do you use it? When you want to impose a logic, right, via linking. If you're trying to show logic to people in the form of linking certain details together, then these kind of sentences become useful. Uh, More than that, if you want to establish a continuous flow, and if you're trying to write something, especially in descriptive forms of writing, you can use these kind of sentences, this style, because in description, what happens most of the times, the author wants the reader to construct the world that the person is writing along with him or her, right? So to create that experiential feeling, to provide that kind of fantasy to the reader, this linking style, the sprite train linking style, constructing long sentences sequence by sequence is very useful, right? So you you are able to see what the author is writing along with the person, right? Okay, so um, that is what the use of right brain style is. We look at the examples to understand it better. Look at the first one. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon the house, and it felt, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. Okay, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon the house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. This is from the Bible. Matthew verses chapter 7 verses 26. Right, so some sort of grand explanation is going on. Don't know exactly what's the context, but from the sentence that we just read, we understand there is something grand that's being described. Right, but whatever it is, just pay attention to how it is written. Right, do you see some sort of linking here? A chain process, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon the house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it. See, can you also see it along as you read? Can you also imagine these things happening? You can almost, it's almost like it's happening right in front of you, right? There's a visual treatment of the matter, right? You can almost see things, you can imagine things to yourself as you read along with it, right? And this happens because of the nature of the sentence, the linking sequential nature of the sentence that you have, right? Look at the other two examples, it will be clear. Second one, it was a hot day and the sky was bright and the road was white and dusty. Again, a very, just one line, but that also helps you build along the experience that the author wants you to have while you read. Right? It's possible to imagine all these things as if it's happening right in front of your eyes. Right? Third one, this is what he writes about, and of course about the habits of the natives. The habits of the natives are disgusting. The women hawk on the floor. The forks are dirty. The trees are poor. The pont knob is not a patch on London Bridge. The cows are skinny. Morals are licentious. Polish is good. Cabbages cost so much. Bread is made of coarse flour. Okay. Again from Virginia Woolf. It's a tough order to understand, but you can make out what the person must be talking about from this paragraph, although everything is not very clear to us. And this happens because of the linking nature of what of the sentence that has been used. Okay, is this clear? You understand this point of how type-train style of sentence works, right? Major purpose linking. When you want to create an experiential narration for the reader, you use the type-train style. All right. Okay, good to go. Fine. Uh, we're going to look at another very important thing called the parallel style. Now, parallel style also functions beyond grammar. The construction of this sentence, the style itself is a little grammatical in nature. Okay, why do you use or when do you use the parallel style? You use parallel style in order to build some sort of a rhythmic pattern to your writing, right? And also to convey different tone like ironic tone, emotional tone, or intellectual tone. Whenever there is an aspect of tonality involved in your writing, you can use parallel style. So these are the functions. But then how do you achieve a parallel style is more grammatical in nature than stylistic. Now, what is a parallel style? This includes two or more words or constructions that stand in an identical grammatical relationship to the same thing, right? How does this become identical grammatical relationship? I'll give you an example for that and you'll understand it better. Read through all that and you'll see what we mean by parallel style. We will come when we are ready and when we choose. In its energy, its lyrics, its advocacy of frustrated joys, rock is one long symphony of protest. The Department of Justice began a vigorous campaign to break up the corporate empires, to restore the free and open market, and to plant the feet of the industry firmly on the way to competition. My last one here, to complain of the age we live in, to murmur at the present possessors of power, to lament the past, to conceive the extravagant hopes of the future, are the common dispositions of the greatest part of mankind. What do you see? Can you tell me what parallel style would be after having read these? So parallel style is identical grammatical forms, right? So what are the identical grammatical forms in the first sentence?
I think it will be when we are ready and when we choose.
We choose, right? So when we are ready, then we choose. How about the second one?
its energy, its
Ah,
lyrics.
correct. Correct. So this is what similar grammatical structures mean, right? They're very similar in their grammar. Its energy, its lyrics, its advocacy of frustrated joys. All of that you see, they are all grammatically similar to each other. When we are ready, when we choose, again, grammatically similar to each other, right? Third one, Department of Justice. The 2 plus T verb form, the two infinitive form, right? To break up the corporate empires, to restore the free and open market, to plant the feet of the industry firmly, right? These are the parallel grammatical structures here, right? Now, what is not allowed in parallel styling is to write something like to break up the corporate empires, restoring the free and open markets, planting the feet of the industry. If you break that, like even if one of it is broken into some other grammatical structure, then the parallel style breaks. Okay, to keep it parallel, you will have to use the same thing for all the yeah, additional points that you put in here. So to break up, to restore, to plant. Even if one among this breaks away from the structure, the two infinitive structure, then it ceases to be a parallel style, right? The last one, to complain, to murmur, to lament, to conceive, right? All of them, all that shorter segments, they add towards identical grammatical structure and hence making the whole of the sentence written in a parallel style. Okay. The idea is we use a parallel style when we have to convey certain tones of writing to people. Okay, tones include ironic. So when we were discussing professional writing, I told you that usually in professional writing we only prefer the objective tone, right? The straightforward writing. We do not go for other styles like the ones that you use in creative writing, like ironic and um, you know um, uh, the humorous one and all that. We don't use that. Satirical and all is not something that we use in the professional domain. But if you are using it, whenever you have to do that, then this parallel style helps you a lot in order to build that thing. I have more examples to show you what this tones are. Let's see. The first one is about Joan of Arc. You might know who this person is. Um, we'll read it. Joan of Arc, a village girl from the Vosges, was born about 1412, burned for heresy, witchcraft, and sorcery in 1431, rehabilitated after a fashion in 1456, designated venerable in 1904, declared blessed in 1908, and finally canonized in 1920. See this? What tone does this paragraph have? What do you think is the tone of this paragraph? Joan of Arc, a village girl from Vegas, was born about 1412, burned for heresy, witchcraft, and sorcery in 1431, rehabilitated after a fashion in 1456, designated venerable in 1904, declared blessed in 1908, and finally canonized in 1920.
Fright
What's the
train type.
no. I'm asking about the tone, not right way. This is parallel style because you see here. Uh,
It
was born, okay, past form, burned for hearsay, rehabilitated, not was born, but starting from burned for, hearsay, rehabilitated, declared, all of them in simple past form, right? So parallel style. Uh, yes, you may be right. Maybe freight train is for freight train, no, you need to have independent clauses. Your sentences will have to be independent clauses joined together. So they have to be sentences by themselves, can't be phrases. Only if you have sentences joined together, then you can call them freight trains. But here the question was more about the tone. What tone do you see here?
Ma'am, it is giving the information of lifetime.
Hmm. No. Okay. I'll tell you. I don't think you understood the question. Tone. I told you you can have various tones in English while you're writing. Not just in English, you can, this is done in all the languages. Any language of the world will have this. So you can use an objective tone. Objective tone is when it's a straightforward thing. It could either be a command, advice, or a simple sentence that I'm saying. Then you have the ironic tones, right? Ironic is very similar to the satirical tone that we use, or to express irony is when you see something that shouldn't have been the case. Okay? Given the factors, if something should not have been the case, but if it actually happened, you call that as an irony, right? Then you have an intellectual tone, right? And then you have emotional tone, right? You might have heard people saying, "Why are you speaking so emotionally?" Right? So these are all tones in language, and tones are very, very important in all languages. So usually we talk about tones only in the spoken language, but even written language has its tone. And this tone is ensured by the use of some of these structures. You look at that paragraph very carefully. Joan of Arc, a village girl from the Vosges, was born about 1412. What is the next thing they say? Burned for heresy, witchcraft, and sorcery in 1431, which means this person was killed, right? Why was the person killed? She was burned for witchcraft, heresy, and sorcery. And then she was rehabilitated after a fashion. Look at it's almost like poking fun. It's like you're making fun of the other person. You killed somebody, and then out of fashion, you rehabilitated this person in 1456 after some fashion. And then you didn't stop there. You went ahead and you declared her venerable. Venerable is someone who's worthy of worship, right? In 1904. You didn't stop there. You went ahead and declared this person as blessed in 1908. Then again, in 1920, you declared this person canonized. This process, blessed and canonized and all that, no, these are different processes that are undertaken by the church to declare somebody a saint. So first you are declared blessed, and then after a point you declare canonized. Once you're canonized, you become a saint. So this is basically someone making fun of the society. First of all, you burn somebody, okay, calling them a witch and all that, and then you take up all that. Later on, you declare them God, right? So this is the ironic tone that they're trying to bring. Get this point? Now, do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So ironic tones in writing can be built using parallel styles. That was the point that the paragraph was trying to make. Okay. So this is an example of ironic tone and parallel style. Look at the second one. He, Josh III, has plundered our seas, ravished our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. What is this? What tone is this? He has plundered our seas, ravaged coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. Emotional tone, right? Most of the words in its meaning and its structures contribute towards that factor, right? Somebody is trying to talk very emotionally about something that somebody else has done, right? So when you have to express something using an emotional tone, again, the parallel structures or the parallel style comes to your help. The last one here, let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, reach any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and success of liberty. This is John F. Kennedy, the uh, erstwhile president of the United States of America, right? So this person is addressing the people, and this is mostly like a speech. Now, speeches usually use what we refer to as the intellectual tones, right? So intellectual tones, emotional tones, or ironic tones, all of them, whenever you want to convey some sort of tone to the people, except the objective tone that we use in professional writing, you use the parallel structures. Okay, get this? Are the three tonal variations clear from the examples that we have here?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that is then the major work or the major use of parallel structures, parallel styles in the professional writing. Okay. Now, in professional writing, how can you do this? You might want to ask a question, but these are all tones that I don't use, usually not recommended in the professional writing domain. Then what am I to do with parallel structures? Parallel structures can be used, like look at the last one, right? The intellectual tone that you use in speeches, they can sometimes be translated into your normal writing also, right? So this one, that particular usage you can find in the you can find for the parallel structures in professional writing, which is using the intellectual tone, right, while communicating with anybody, your clients or your colleagues or anything. This tone, maybe the emotional and the ironic tone, they are not used in the professional domain. That's not recommended. But the last one, the intellectual tone that you see in this one by John F. Kennedy, this is something that you can use while you are in the professional domain, right? So professional writing can make use of that parallel structure. Okay, all right. I think it is 5 already. So, are you clear with the styles about the shorter and longer sentences combination and the first three styles, which is segregating, right brain, and the parallel structure, parallel style? Clear off with it?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Um,
Fine. So, I'm
Excuse me,
not going
ma'am.
to take more. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Ma'am, I had a doubt. Ma'am, we discussed the different types of styles while writing.
Yeah,
So, can
exactly.
somebody use a combination of styles while delivering a particular content? Or suppose if
Yes.
I want to write an essay, then should I follow a one particular style or can I jump between two or more styles?
So in longer pieces of writing, usually combination is what people usually do because there's no other way of doing it. You're talking about essay, right? So essay is relatively a very long piece of writing. So it is impossible that you stick with just one style. You will have to use parallel structures somewhere. Sometimes you'll have to use right frame. Sometimes you'll have to use segregating, right? So that is
Yes,
there.
ma'am.
In a real world, the ideal situation or the most realistic way of writing would be using a combination of everything. Like what I told you about the usage of short and long sentence, right? You just keep writing short sentences, it cannot convey your meaning properly. You only write long sentences, again, it can create troubles for the process of meaning making. So the realistic method of doing anything would be to use a combination of all this, and that is how it is done. Okay, unless you are trying to create some specific style, but that happens only in creative writing, uh, right? When the authors just stick with one thing and they have different purpose to achieve. But in professional writing, yes, you definitely are going to use a combination.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, right.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So let's talk for today. There's like just few things left in the part on style. There's one last thing called the subordinating style, and then one more thing about the fragments in writing. Fragments is something that is usually discussed while we talk about proofreading, but I will look at it in a different light for you for this class because I also want to discuss the uses of fragments. I just don't want to show you the problems with using fragments. I also want to show you where fragments can be used, right? So those two segments remain under style, and then we can go ahead taking up some writing examples so that all these things that we discussed with you becomes clearer. Okay. All right. So thank you. I am ending the class for today. If you have any doubts, please go ahead and ask. Otherwise, we'll close and meet next week again. Any question?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Manan and others. Thank you for
Thank you, ma'am.
joining in. Okay. We'll meet next week, all of you, with love and Saiteja, Sneha.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes,
can we
please.
also submit some write-ups if we are practicing these types of styles and skills?
Please do. Please do. I think English too, this is no, you must have received a mail
Yes, ma'am. We are
saying,
receiving mails of one day we are speaking for a week and
right,
then an alternating week we are writing.
right. You can send, no? You can send it to them, or are you asking for a different kind of thing?
Yes, ma'am. If we want to write, do some professional work or a little creative paras or essays.
Yes, yes, you can send anything you want. No problem.
Thank, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, everyone. So I'll meet you next week. Thank you so much for joining me.